Sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Two, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. There's lots of green on the transmission. Yay. Good morning, dear friends. Hello to those of you joining us on the internet. I'd like to start by thanking everyone who volunteers here at PIMC. Please raise your hand if you do that. Wow, that's a lot. I was inspired to do that just now as you walked in with those incredibly beautiful flowers. This place is as beautiful as it is and as functional as it is because of the labor of hundreds of people over the years. It's remarkable, and I'd like to invite those of you that would like to feel more connected here to get in contact with Kirsten afterwards, and because there's several, we always need more help, and it's so Well, I, of course, love this place, right? And when one does the smallest thing to support it, to take care of it, it becomes yours. I remember when I moved from California to Portland, 1978, I had met the person who was to become my wife and the mother of my kids, and she had an apartment, which on the second and third day or so, I cleaned it thoroughly. And it was really, it didn't need it that badly, but it was all about, well, this is my place now. I need to take care of it, or I want to take care of it. It will be mine because I take care of it. So thank you again to all of our volunteers. I survived the Christmas era. Did you? Families are really challenging, aren't they? Relationships, poof, quite remarkable. So please, if you wish, either maybe sit and stay in silence if you want, but if you wish, I invite you to turn to a neighbor and tell them one thing you're grateful for today. And your name. It's the icebreaker. I survived. I, of course, don't know how it is for you, but I just take such delight in that this room of quiet people turns into this uproar of conversation. Anybody here for the first time today? Please raise your hand. Oh my goodness, quite a few. Huh. Well, welcome. I wish I could have the opportunity to speak with you and find out what you're looking for. And in fact, that's one thing we do. You can meet with me if you would like. Just call Avi. Where's Avi? There he is, Avi. Or talk to him afterwards. And we do something we call a Dharma consult, which is a half-hour meeting. There's no charge or anything. And it's a way to get connected in and to ask any questions that you have. And that's open to anybody in the community. We're going to start with our modern traditional chant, Refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. What could that possibly mean? Buddha Dharma Sangha. Buddhism is a religion, and there's a thin, beautiful, luminous thread that comes through it, which is the actual mystical teaching, the teaching of awakening. And to the best of my and our ability, what we try to bring forth here is that latter. So one could approach the refuges religiously, which is I have faith in the Buddha. Or one could realize there's something utterly mysterious, which is awakeness, there's consciousness, there's that which knows. And that's where the Buddha suggested it makes sense to take refuge, in that which is aware. And then with that awareness, what do we discover? And there's a highly articulated model of what can be discovered, but it's not real until we experience it ourselves. So this is not a path of blind faith. This is a path of self-responsibility and experimentation. It really is science, actually. And the third refuge in Sangha, or community, is here we are. And there's this descending community, down through teacher to student to community. And the piece that I like to always reflect on is that we're part of the community of life. We live on this pale blue little speck next to nothing in the midst of infinite vastness. And yet, here we are, we have our co-travelers of the air, the earth, and the waters. And we're not separate from any of them. We're one living organism. And that's very comforting to me too. So I invite you to join in. The words are simple. I take refuge in the Buddha. We don't have the sheets. Let's not go for them now. But thank you, my dear. Oh, you're so thoughtful. KB. So those of you that are new, please join in as you can, as you wish. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Dharma, I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. Sangha, I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Again, Buddha. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. When we stop like this, stop the stimulation of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the feeling body, and the mind. Whatever should we do? What can we do? In modernity, in the realm of entertainment and stimulation of all kinds all the time, we're following the promise that we can be happy and content if we just get the right stimulation. If I could watch the right TV series or have the right thing at dinner, or if my partner would just be this way or that way, or if I could be different, if my body could be a different shape. And this seeking completion and contentment is an endless journey. So at some point in some of our lives, we're very fortunate that something calls us to do something different, radically different, which is to stop. To stop and then pay attention inwardly. To stop and inhabit this present moment. And if you do that, what do you find? One of the dominant things is sensations. The body is alive. So there's life in what you think of as your hands. There's life in contact with the cushion or the chair or the floor. There's life in the face. And there's nothing complex about this paying attention. It's simply noticing, yes, there's life here. It doesn't require some description or name, it's just life. There are also thoughts. One of the aspects of our profound case of mistaken identity is that we believe that these thoughts are me. I think, therefore I am. It becomes pretty clear fast that thoughts think themselves. The beginning meditator usually thinks, oh, I'm failing because I can't control my mind. But then in time and with some good guidance, we realize, oh yes, thoughts are one thing, that which knows them is another. The Buddha taught a really thorough map of awakening and training oneself. And the meditation component usually begins with mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing. And this again is so simple. Difficult, but simple. Bring awareness into the sensations of the chest and abdomen rising and falling, expanding and contracting. Notice the beginning of each breath. Notice how the mind wanders. But don't go to war with the mind. It's pointless. It's destructive. It's dysfunctional. Instead, in the words of Ruth Denison, my teacher for 40-some years, darling, abide in the beauty of your being. Notice the breathing, notice sensations, notice the mind wandering, and then return to the breath. Participate in the natural process of awakening. There is a very potent teaching from Ajahn Chah in the Thai forest tradition. Anytime you want to bring your meditation into perfect balance, remember these words. It's like this. This moment is like this. This is how it is. So it could be a mind that is content and joyful and happy and at ease and pliable. Or it could be a storm, an emotional storm. It could be doubt or extreme desire or disliking, restlessness, worry. This moment is like this. Just like this. And so we experience with deeper and deeper intimacy exactly that which we take ourselves to be, this personal experience. And we can use a primary training object like the breath to provide some stability and direction. there is definitely some effort required, isn't there? In the terminology of skillful effort from the Eightfold Path, it's the effort to recognize and restrain unwholesome states. It's a gardening metaphor, really, to pull the weeds. The effort to bring wholesome states into being, to plant the crops we'd like to harvest. Things like mindfulness and concentration and patience and love and compassion, joy, equanimity, perseverance. When you discover that the mind has wandered off into some past or future or emotion or some reminiscence or daydreaming, the waking up to that is really automatic. It happens. And then apparently we can choose to come home to breathing, to rest in the breath as you might a hammock on a warm summer afternoon. this moment is like this. What is it that you're discovering? Uncovering? Many, maybe most of us have been conditioned and come to the conclusion that there's something really wrong with us. What's wrong, if we would call it that, is that we human beings are quite a mixed bag. Pleasure, pain, happy, sad, confused, clear, high self-esteem, low self-esteem, tranquil, restless. It just isn't a stable thing. And so we not only suffer that instability, but we suffer the trying to make it into something all the time. But there is a way out, moment by moment, in it's like this. This mind is like this body is like this in this moment. This is refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma. Being awake and noticing what is. It's like this. Please now become aware of your feet. The legs. The buttocks pressing down in the cushions of the chair or the floor. The back, the chest and abdomen. Fingers, hands, arms, the neck, the face, the scalp. The eyes. There's life in the eyes, isn't there? And if you move them around, you can notice that the eye itself is beautifully lubricated and smooth for the most part. And now noticing the intention to open the eyes, to let them open. And then operationalize that intention and pull up that eyelid. It can feel pretty heavy sometimes. And notice what happens. We take it for granted because it's happened so many times, but it's kind of strange. All of a sudden there are objects, seeing. How does that happen? How do you do that? Seeing. And then maybe your body's a little stiff, so you could let it stretch a little bit. Very mindfully. Don't abandon meditation just because you're not sitting still. It's quite a breakthrough moment when people realize that all day, every day, there's the opportunity to be awake. Every activity. For those of you that are new here today, what will happen next is that my colleague and dear friend Jim will lead some mindful movement. And then my right hand here at BIMC, Avi, will do some announcements. And then I'll be back and going to do some sharing of the Dharma. And after that, if you go through that door, there's tea and goodies and some really nice people to meet. Some people who actually understand the importance of turning inward to face themselves. How often do you find that? Strange people, they talk about weird things. They say things like, the mind was doing this. And I saw lust arising, and then they're strange. That's why you need to hang out with other strange people. So, Mr. Dalton, are you ready to do it? I feel strange.
All right, that's better. So we stand and become aware of our sensations in the feet. Maybe lifting the toes, lifting the heels, waking up the bottoms of the feet. Lifting. And then sinking, feeling the strength in the upper thighs as we sink and then rise. Interlocking the fingers, lifting, stretching, Staying up there and stretch some more. Then turn the hands over and sink again. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. In to the middle, out to the side. Releasing and coming to stillness. Feeling the effects of this movement. Again, sinking, interlocking the fingers, lifting up. Breathing out. In. Out. In and release. Pausing, noticing predominant sensations, shoulders, upper arms, into the hands and the fingers. And then again, sinking and lifting the arms gradually up and releasing down. Riding on the breath, lifting the arms, and releasing down. And again, lifting, but then opening. And noticing the rib cage open up and then relax. And once more. Lifting overhead, painting a rainbow across the sky. Releasing the arms, crossing the wrists, come up the center. Breathe out and release. Breathe in and out. Turn to the side with the palms up. Press, lift, and press. Open the arms, come overhead, and sink. Lift across, let the weight move into one side of the body, and then release back to the center. It's all balanced. Then lift, release back. So there's an engagement on one side from the toes up to the fingertips, and then turning, gazing at the moon. Pressing across. Then we reach across, lift one arm so we can see the palm, and let the other arm face the earth. Come across the center to the other side, and then switch. And we call this cloud hands, as if the upper hand is a cloud drifting effortlessly across the sky, but it's connected to the shadow on the earth below. How does the cloud know where the shadow is? And coming to pause again, feel the breath. I got up this morning and thought, how many times have I breathed? How many breaths have I taken? So I started counting and multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. I got up to 450,000. And then I get another one. How did I get so lucky? Go the other way. Just moving the arms and gesturing, riding on the breath, and anytime we need it, it's there. 450,000 times. How did we get so lucky? Each breath has a beginning, a middle, and an end on one cycle. And then releasing, releasing, releasing on the other cycle. 20 years ago, Robert said something about a monk who says, "This body breathes." And I thought, what a strange thing to say. Here I am doing it myself. Thank you very much.
Joe, are you up for Dharma Council? Sure. Good morning, Sangha. Whoa, that's loud. Can you hear me okay? Is that all right? My name is Avi, and I have the privilege of being community coordinator here, which means I attend to all the little details that keep this place going, which includes answering your questions, helping you access this place in a way that you want to access it, and doing what needs to be done to help keep this place going. And we are about to enact the very ancient ritual of announcements. Before I get to announcements, I would just like to say that when I welcomed you all, I said, "Hello, Sangha." And there are those of you who have never been here before. And you might be surprised to learn that you are a part of this Sangha just by being here. There are no secret handshakes, there's no initiation rituals, there's no hazing, there's no memberships of any kind. Just by showing up, you are a part of this Sangha, and that is the way Robert designed this place. You now are a part of this for as long as you want to be. And if you decide it doesn't serve you anymore, then by all means, go search on your path in whatever you need to do. But if you are getting something that feels good out of this place, as Robert was suggesting, you can get more out of it if you have a sense of ownership about this place, if you feel like this is your place. And the way that you can really feel like a member of this Sangha is to engage. Please join us after the Dharma talk and get to know some of the people who are down there. I guarantee virtually everyone in this room is worth knowing. And have some cookies, have some tea and coffee. And then also, you can also help keep this place going by spending some time, by doing some things that need to be done in order to keep this a welcoming, clean place that feels comfortable to all of us. And if you want to do that, Kirsten, she of the raised hand, raised your hand, hi. She of the raised hand would be very happy to help find a way to direct your skills and your talents and your interests, because I guarantee beyond the ordinary things of vacuuming and some other tasks that need to be done, whatever skills and interests you have, we can use them in this place to make this a deeper community, a more integrated community that feels better to all of us. So I encourage you, if you're looking for connection, you found it. All you have to do is reach out to us and we will connect with you. So there's a number of things here that are going on. And I will try and get through these as fast as I can. All of these things, they're either on the website or they will be. And we also send out constant contact emails to let you know about what's going on. If you are not a member of our email list, please sign up in the back. There's a clipboard there with a form where you can fill out your name and email address and address. Please let us know that you're here and let us know who you are so that we can sign you up and keep you in the loop of everything that's going on. So, for today, on the 30th, there is an Engaging the Dharma event that we're doing for serving the dinner at a homeless shelter. No more volunteers are needed for that, for those of you who know about that. Then tomorrow, December 31st, is going to be our annual grief ritual to welcome in the new year. This is very special and very powerful. It is a way of unloading the burdens of the past and looking forward to the future, and Robert is going to be doing it with Gary. Please arrive by 8 p.m. There's information on the website if you'd like some more background on that. On Saturday, January 5th, it's going to be our first Saturday monthly day-long retreat at PIMC. We have first Saturday retreats the first Saturday of every month. There's There's information on that on the website. Sunday, January 6th is going to be the monthly orientation session with Robert at 9 a.m., which we hold on the first Sunday of every month. Then on Sunday also, January 6th, after the Dharma gathering, we are really honored to have a visiting nonviolent communication teacher, Oren J. Sofer, author of Say What You Mean, A Mindful Approach to Nonviolent Communication. He will be doing a 3-hour workshop here next Sunday. Details about that are on the website. On Tuesday, January 9th in the evening, we've got the new edition of our NVC practice group with Doyle and Kirsten. And there are details on that about how to sign up on the website. Please, they want only people who have had some kind of formal NVC training. And if you have questions, Doyle is right here, Kirsten is right here, they'd be happy to answer your questions. Then on Saturday, January 12th, we have a visiting teacher, Frank Letter, who comes and visits us once a year. And he will be doing a workshop and day-long retreat on patience and loving kindness, escaping from the prison of either-or mentality. On Sunday, January 13th, we are going to have our second Sunday PIMC potluck, the second Sunday of every month. People unleash their ancient... Oh. You sure it's all right? It's all right. Okay. He's told me I should try and do this in 5 minutes, and so I was treating it like it was an Olympic event, and I was being timed. And clearly, clearly that wasn't working out too well. Okay. I'm going to relax. So. Sorry about that. So we will be having our second Sunday potluck then on the 13th, and we do that every month. It's like an elaborate thing. People bring casseroles and stuff, and it's like a sit-down meal, and there's a lot more cleanup and setup prepared. And even if you bring nothing, please join us for that. It's sort of like a picnic at PIMC. Then on Sunday, January 13th, we have, after the Dharma session, we have our next Engaging the Dharma meeting. We have a local group that is really dedicated to the idea of taking what we learn, sitting in meditation, and putting it out into the world in terms of compassionate action. This is an initiative that we started within the last couple of months, and we are moving forward with looking for ways that we can take our mindfulness and we can apply it out to help healing the world outside of this center. Then on Thursday, January 17th, we have the start of the winter 2019 Basics of Mindfulness class with Doug Pullen. Details are on the website. On Saturday, January 19th, is Buddhist movie night. Once a month, we have a movie that is either Buddhist or can be read as a Buddhist movie. And this time it's Samsara, which is a documentary. Details are on the website. On Tuesday, January 22nd, is the start of the Winter 2019 Skillful Speech class with Doyle and Kirsten. They'd be happy to answer your questions about that.
January 19th, Saturday is the first day.
Is it really?
It is.
Ew. Somehow I got January.
Tuesday is when the Tuesday starts, it starts with the retreat on that Saturday the 19th.
Ah, right. Okay. So yes. So it starts. Okay. Good point. So ask Doyle and Kirsten and look on the website and forget about the 19th. Forget about the 22nd. Do the 19th. Then on Wednesday, January 23rd, is the start of the Deep Dharma class with Robert. Studies and meditations on the teachings of Ajahn Sumedho, I think is the way you pronounce that. Venerated elder, Western monk in the Thai forest tradition. There will be 8 sessions. It ends on April 10th. Registration is open via recent email, and it will be coming to the website this week. And then finally, at the end of the month, we've got on Saturday, January 26th, the volunteer retreat with Robert. If you want to attend and you do not volunteer or have not volunteered, well, then talk to Kirsten or talk to me, and then you can be a volunteer, and then we would be happy to have you join us on our volunteer retreat. Just a few other items. to close up here. We do have some specific volunteer needs if you feel called to apply some specific kinds of activity here. We need someone to coordinate gardening come spring. Actually, we need someone to coordinate gardening and people to participate in maybe a small work party sometime over the next couple of months to sort of set the grounds ready for the springtime. If we had like 3 or 4 people that were interested in gardening, we could really use your help. Please see Kirsten. We also need, last I heard, 4 people for hospitality. 4 or more people for hospitality. Hospitality people are the people who come in and they set up the snacks and they clean up the living room after the Dharma talk. We really could use more of those people. We could also use a couple of people for our housekeeping team to keep the place looking nice. We also could use a fix-it person, somebody who is really knowledgeable about just keeping homes, this is our home, in good repair, and we could use somebody like that who periodically could come in and take care of some things. Please contact Kirsten if you can do that. We have Dharma consults that are available if you have an issue coming up in your practice or you want a quick on-ramp to starting a practice. Robert had said that he's available. You can call me to make an appointment with him. However, if you want to do it today, Jim is happy to meet with you for 20 minutes. Please see Jim at the end of this. And we have other sits during the week. We have spiritual friends groups that meet on their own time. We have a transitions project where if you have household items you no longer need, please bring them in and we get them to the Northwest Transitions Project, which helps the homeless. And then finally, if you have any questions about this place or how it works or how to engage further, and that includes you folks on the internet, if there's anything that I can do to help you, please call me, email me. I'm in my office Monday through Thursday in the mornings. So it is a pleasure to be with you all here today on the second to last day of the year. Happy New Year. Blessings to you all.
Oh, yeah. I have 3 more announcement-y sort of things. One is to underline the fact that Frank Lader, my Dharma brother from Germany, is teaching a one-day retreat in early January. And I didn't meet Frank until, I think it was after Ruth died. I'd heard of him for decades, but he was a student of hers for almost as long as I was. And he came every year, and spent 2 or 3 weeks at Dhammadina. He probably actually spent more physical time with her than I did. And he's been, I guess this is the 4th year, maybe the 5th, and he brings a very interesting perspective. His European roots, and he's spoken, and he's also going to teach on the Sunday of that weekend. He's spoken about what he perceives happening in Germany, which is utterly different than what we get in our news. And quite fascinating. And in addition to that, he founded a school of massage called the Touch Life School. And there are hundreds, if not 1,000, it's been going on for many years throughout Europe, people who do this methodology of massage. And he's going to be doing on the Monday and Tuesday of the 10th and 11th or something like that. He's going to be offering body work to people who would like. Some people have gone in the past and had great experiences with that. But mostly I want to introduce him as this really beautiful, deep man of the Dharma who adored Ruth Denison or as much as I did, and brings a lot of depth with him. And also to remind you, we're coming to the end of the year. Our end of the year fundraising has been going very well. And we received a $2,000 anonymous donation sometime last week, which is very welcome. And so if you want to help out by the end of the year, it's coming soon, and please do. There's also the Dana Bowl at the back of the room that can help with that. And then the last is my class. I did one retreat with Ajahn Sumedho a long time ago, and I can really say that it changed my life. He is the clearest. It's enough. He articulates the Dharma in such a simple way. It's like, well, if you want to fix something simple, you look at it, you take it apart, you put it back together, you get the new. He's so straightforward about the Dharma, and I have probably somewhere still a set of 18 or maybe it was 28 tapes of him. And after those retreats, that one retreat I did, I always had them in my car. They were behind my seat, and I'd reach back and pick up a tape. You remember those tapes? Those things that broke, and it didn't matter where it was, I'd stick it in, and it was always so nourishing. So we're going to be reading one of his books and meeting 8 times, and I'll be encouraging people to practice deeply. And so here's what I wanted to say. It's marvelous to practice to reduce your stress. It's marvelous to practice to become psychologically and emotionally healthier, and to be able to be in relationship more effectively. It's also marvelous to practice working with an understanding of the profound insights that can come through meditation, the truth of impermanence, the truth of dukkha, of suffering, and the liberation teachings which are there. And Sumedho is as clear a description of the path as you'll ever find. So I invite you to participate in that if you can and would like to. It's Wednesday nights starting in January. Hi. I get tired of all the business end of things at times. It's nice to just meet, isn't it? As I look around the room, I meet people. I have experiences of great depth with some people in this room I've known for years, even decades. And there's others of you that are completely new faces and persons. And I just noticed as I was looking around, there's this sense of, oh, I'd like to know, who's that? And what's their thing? So that's part of the blessing of having a community where we get to know one another. And many years ago, could you get me another glass of water? Sorry, I could have got one myself on the way through. I was at a teachers' conference it was at Green Gulch. And the teachers from the San Francisco Zen Center were there. There were about 10 of them. They'd been together for 30 years, living together. And they said that, one of the women said that, well, you can think of community as being like a rock polisher. You take these jagged rocks with their sharp little egos, and you throw them into this device. You throw in some water and then some rouge, some grinding substance, and then you grind their personalities together for 20 or 30 years, and gradually the rough edges get worn off. And so that's what we get to do here to some degree. Thank you. What was that? You remember Stranger? How many of you read Stranger in a Strange Land? The Water of Life. Great. Okay. This is a poem by Hafiz, 15th century Sufi. You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. You have all the genius to build a swing in your backyard for God. That sounds like a hell of a lot more fun. Let's start laughing, drawing blueprints, gathering our talented friends. I will help you with my divine lyre and my drum. Hafiz will sing 1,000 words you can take into your own hands like golden saws, silver hammers, polished teakwood, strong silk rope. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them. Mix them. Hafiz. So I was thinking about today being the last Sunday of the year, and I always reflect before coming in here to assume this responsibility. What could I say that would be really useful? Not just entertaining and passing the time, but what could I say that would be really, really helpful? And fortunately, there's the incredible depth of the Buddha's teachings, and there's hundreds of possible things to talk about. But I was thinking, it's the end of the year, and people make New Year's resolutions. Oh, and I invite you to come tomorrow night. That's a very potent thing. We did it last year, and we have a stainless steel bowl and pebbles, polished pebbles. And we have people gather as many pebbles as you would wish to reflect and to honor the difficulties in your own life, the losses in particular, the griefs you'd like to honor. It's not about getting rid of it, but it's about acknowledging, yes, this is true. And then with everyone chanting, each person has the opportunity to go forward into the middle of the room and drop their pebbles into the stainless steel bowl, and can speak about it or not. And and also there's papers, and you can write something you'd like to honor or relinquish, and then burn it in the candle. And I turn off the smoke detector so that we don't have any, we don't have a repeat of what happened one time in here. It does kind of, it sullies the mood, you know. So we'll do that, and then we'll do some contemplation, reflection, and then do the refuge chants into the new year. So, we often think, what shall my aspiration be? What would my New Year's resolution like to be? And aspiration or intention is actually one of the 8 elements of the Eightfold Path. And I want to give just a quick shot through that and then come to this dependent origination. Worldview. The way we make sense of the world is of utmost importance. I mean, we're seeing a clash of worldviews right now around the globe. We're seeing, this is my country. Even though I had to drive other people out and kill them to get it, it's my country. It's my country now. And people of a certain color belong here, but not others. And I will do this at whatever cost. And one thing that requires is that I will close my heart to the suffering of others. Right? I won't reflect on what's happening in the places that people are fleeing from, and why. And I won't see that mother and child as my mother and child, as myself, or I will not allow that to happen. I will objectify them, and they gotta follow the rules, and we do that within the country and on the borders. And this is happening on a planetary basis. As the environmental crisis worsens, there are more and more refugees, and it's going to continue and become much, much worse. And so there's a question which is very central to our spiritual lives, which is, will we share or not? Will I be willing to reduce my, quote, standard of living in order that other people may have enough to survive? And it's at a certain level. That's not the way we're trained to gather into to take care of our own little tribe first, and it's a movement, and it's a spiritual movement to put the other person's moccasins on, to look with the eyes of compassion, to realize that person is suffering. How can I help? And that's fundamental to spiritual life. So worldview, the Buddha, things were very similar at the time of the Buddha. There was lots of war around him, and sickness and old age and so on. But he looked around and he said, this trying to get happy through satisfying the senses hasn't worked for me, and I don't see it happening for others. And so then he went off and did his spiritual quest. And then when he discovered what he did, he started teaching a different worldview. And it's a radically different view It starts with this, and that applique thing, that sewn thing on the back wall, is the story of this sermon. So I'm going to do very briefly. He said, "Are you suffering? Is there suffering? Is suffering real?" And he said, "It really is. It's the central fabric of human life, actually. Because, well, I'll come to that. Are you suffering? If so, experience it fully. Stop distracting yourself. Experience it fully, and discover that it's not just abject suffering. There's something causing it, and the cause is in the human mind. Because the human mind creates a self that says, I don't want this to be the way it is, but this is the way it is. So there's suffering, there's a cause of suffering, and then wonderfully, there is an end. There's a diminishment and an end of suffering that comes through training the mind and the heart. And then there's the Eightfold Path, which is the wonderful treatment plan which teaches us how to actually proceed in order to be more and more free, and therefore more happy and more loving and compassionate. Also, and this is from this is the first wise understanding aspect of the Eightfold Path. There's another piece of it which says, challenge the delusions which are normative for human beings. The three great delusions. The first is that something can be permanent, something can last. Everything this side of the Big Bang has been change. It's utter change. I mean, there's nothing but change. And we think, deludedly, that we can arrive somewhere and it's going to stay, and it isn't. But it's very difficult delusion to break out of. The second is, I can arrive somewhere at satisfaction. I can eat enough or see enough or have enough this or have enough that I will get somewhere, and then it'll be like, yes, I've arrived. And it doesn't work. It's not true. How could it be true? And then the third, which is really another jewel at the heart of the teachings, we really believe that we have an enduring self. It's so obvious, isn't it? But do you remember any of your ancestors from 100 years ago? Are they even known? But then what we do, we create stories about, well, I'm going to go and go to heaven or something like that, which was my childhood experience. And then there's the law of karma. The Buddha taught that actions have results, and he called it the light of the world, which is taught because that means that I can have an influence on what happens. Not that I'm in charge, but that I can have an influence. So with this different worldview, as we take that in, then intention arises. That's the next aspect. If I really am embracing the fact that everything's impermanent, and that I can't get satisfied through shopping, whatever shall I do? And so he suggested, well, look at your intentions. Where are my intentions rooted? Are they rooted in greed, like I want, I want, I want? Are they rooted in I don't want, I don't want, I don't want? Or are they rooted in I want to become something, I want to become something? That those don't lead to happiness. And he then proposed, well, what does lead to happiness? Actions that are rooted in intentions that are based in the opposites of those. I aspire to become generous. Generous to myself and my spiritual life. And I want to go through the world such that when I die, people will say, of all the things about this person, they were so generous. Not in the codependent way, right? Not in that way that's dangerous for so many of us. That since in the dysfunctional family, mine being one of billions, if one takes care of the parent, then maybe the parent will have a little bit of energy left over to take care of the person. That's not the kind of generosity. It's the kind of generosity that comes from a full heart. And then I can care. I can see that another has a need. So aspirations based in generosity, in non-harming, in kindness. So I aspire also to become really kind. Kind starting with this person. And every single one of us is hurting so much. We all need kindness. That's one of the primary reasons to meditate, to spend some time every day, for the formal practice. Spend some time being kind. It's like this. You're feeling like this? Well, let yourself feel it. Right? Really experience fully. Kindness, generosity, patience. I really want to develop lots of patience. And I want to develop the capacity to live right here and now. So that's the aspirations. And it can sound complicated, but it really isn't. You know, when the desire arises to do something, you can ask yourself, so is this a greedy or hateful, desperate desire to get somewhere else? Or is this rooted? Is there generosity in this? Is there non-harming in this? Is that making sense? That you can actually look at the roots of it? It's like all of these teachings. They're not rocket. Well, rocket science is simple too, of course, but they're not desperately, distantly abstract. There's something very practical. Then from my aspirations comes skillful speech, skillful action, and skillful livelihood, which I can't go into now. And then, how is it that I will operationalize that? How is it that I'll be awake enough to actually do this? Well, that's where the meditation comes in. To train the mind to actually do the work, to do the waking up. It's really 11:38. Good God. Close that. Doyle, would you come up and sit with me, please? So, there really isn't time to do this in the kind of depth that's due. Would someone focus that for me? I don't think it's good. That's good enough. Okay. Well, that picture's not great. Hi. Doyle is one of our teachers here and dear friend, and he's done a lot of study of the 12 steps of dependent origination. I just felt I might be supported by having you with me. Maybe comment at some point. So, to not rush. This will be very superficial, but perhaps it can give you a glimpse of the piece that I really want to emphasize. You carry all the ingredients to make yourself a nightmare. Don't mix them. You carry all the ingredients to make your life blossom, happy. Mix them. So, I can't explain all these. I'm just going to show you the first few of these as the beautiful things that they are. These are all pictures of the thangka there. Those Tibetan thangkas were carried around by the lamas. That's their equivalent of PowerPoint. And if you look at this, I request don't touch it because the body oils are hard on it. So Avalokiteshvara, the founder of Tibetan Buddhism. And there's Buddha Shakyamuni, the Buddha of our time. And here's Yama, the Lord of Death. Birth and death. And here we start at the top of the 12 steps of dependent origination. The Buddha said that it was through the understanding of this that his awakening came. Interesting. So I'm going to go through them. And very briefly, this is an old woman, blind, walking, tapping her cane. Ignorance. Ignorance conditions life, the activities of life. This is a woman making, it looks like Tibetan moo-moos. Traditionally, it's pots. She's making pots. And in the traditional understanding, these first two are often thought of as previous lifetimes. But I'm not convinced that the Buddha taught previous and future lifetimes. I think that was something that came in out of the culture. But this still is incredibly useful because of a point we'll get to quite soon. Monkey. Rebirth linking consciousness. From moment to moment, there's something that persists in consciousness. Because of rebirth linking consciousness, mind and body emerge. This is two people in a little leather boat, a coracle it's called. Mind, and you have this, it's very practical right now. There's consciousness and there's body. When death occurs, there's just body. Because of, caused by, conditioned by mind and matter, the six senses are born. And you have them right now: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. What did I miss? Body. Mind, right, mind. And there's consciousness and its objects. And its objects, I always think, this is the image I should use for selling retreats and things. It's like come and meditate.
I'll be there.
What? You're not beyond that? So, because of sense doors, there's contact. If you close your eyes, seeing's gone. Try it. Bam. Then open. Because there's visual objects, light, and an intact eye and consciousness, there's what we call seeing. Same with hearing, same with all the sense experiences. It's also true with thoughts arise. The sense door of mind, the nose is designed in such a way as it's sensitive to chemicals and tiny particulates and creates an experience, which had to do with survival. Right? I want that. Ooh, disgusting, I don't want that. The same happens at the mind. Thoughts arise, emotions arise, the past and future arise as thoughts, and there's knowing it, or there can be knowing it. Because of contact like this, and this is where it starts to get very active and interesting, and the point I really want to make today, and I'm going to slow down. Hurrying. I hurry a lot in my life. Do you find yourself hurrying? It's epidemic. Not breathing very deeply, a sense of, oh, I've got to get this done, when it doesn't get things done any faster, but it's what we do. So, contact. Contact leads to feeling. This drawing is actually not true to the tradition because the arrow should be in the eye. Contact, feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or indeterminate, blinds us. Because it leads to craving. This is traditionally a man with some kind of an alcoholic drink. But it could be any craving. So I want to go back. Can I just go back? Oh yes, it worked. Good. Contact, feeling, craving. I want it. What comes next? Grasping. Not only do I want it, I fired up my computer and I'm on smile.amazon.com and I'm about to become a person who bought that. Because of grasping, becoming occurs, and this and the next drawing, a couple of women have pointed out, this was clearly done by a man because she doesn't look very pregnant at all. And then the next one here, she's just lying there, ho-hum, giving birth. It's like, oh well, another child. It's like that one of those first scenes of Monty Python, the meaning of life. Oh, pick that up, will you please? So, grasping leads to becoming. Becoming leads to birth. Birth leads to sickness, old age, lamentation, death, and despair. Now, we can think of this as a multi-lifetime model, which is what the religion of Buddhism does. But I think it's really particularly helpful to go back to here. It would seem that we can have some impact in our lives. A lot of what happens is utterly beyond our control, of course. And I worked on freighters in my youth, and one of the more amazing things I saw, I was on a ship coming up we'd stopped in South Africa. We're coming up the west coast, and one of those giant super tankers went by. I mean, they are 1,200 yards long. 3.5 football fields. And they travel at about 25 miles an hour. It's fast. And if they go in full reverse, they can stop in about 15 to 20 miles. That's the scale of transport. And my life sort of feels like that. Right? There's this tremendous karmic, this is who I am, this is what I do. But there's a little platform down on the back, and I have a really nice canoe paddle, and I can do the J stroke. And I can sometimes whip, just slow. And we have influence. It's not control, but there is some way we can influence this destiny that we're on. Carl Jung said, without investigating our lives, our inner life, we live out a fate. Our previous experiences condition how we respond, and we respond. And so we've kind of like a ballistic curve. However, with consciousness, and the Buddha said with mindfulness and investigation and curiosity, then we live out a destiny. A destiny, something different. We land so differently than, I sometimes joke that, who am I? Little Bobby Beatty from Lachine, Quebec is teaching the Dharma. This is the weirdest thing on the planet. I mean, how odd. So, to the practicality of it. Contact, feeling, craving, grasping. Nice sound. All day, every day, the momentum of our lives, we're moving along. And where do we have choice? Where can we really intervene in our destiny? Well, it's right here between contact and feel, or excuse me, it's at feeling, going the wrong way. There we go, feeling. There we go. It's said, and I think it's true, everything before feeling is fixed. There's no way to intervene there. But when feeling happens, it can set off our wake-up alarm, and we may be able to notice, wow, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Maybe we don't catch it there, and then we notice wanting, I'm wanting, or I'm wanting not, or that's enough. I'm wanting or I'm wanting not. Now, it seems that it's at that point that we can intervene. We have desires, or for instance, it's funny the examples that always come up. Several years ago, my wife Jennifer and I were having a conflict and stupidly doing it on texting. Right? Now that's insane. Texting doesn't work for that. But she sent me a wrong statement. And I quickly typed a correct statement. And then I was wanting to send it. And I read it through a couple of times and I realized, I went back to skillful speech. So, is this said kindly? Well, not really. Is it the right time? No. Is its intention to heal? No. And I wanted to send it. And I did. Guess what happened? There was no more communication that day. And then I went home, and it wasn't a warm welcome. But so I got to craving, and I really wanted to do it. And then I acted, and I was born as a person with broken communication. And I was also, it reinforced the tendency to act on the basis of craving. Now, fortunately, later in the evening, there were sequelae to that, and there was some learning that happened. And over the course of our lives, we become even to function in the world. We have to rein in all kinds of impulses. But with the meditation, we begin to work on reining them in. You carry all the ingredients to make yourself a nightmare. Lots of things are really worth reining in because they're not rooted in generosity, kindness, and love. They're rooted in greed, hatred, and aversion. And so we get finer and finer with mindfulness, the active ingredient here, primary active ingredient, we get so that we're watching phenomena arise in consciousness and really being in the driver's seat more often and deciding, I'll do that, or here's something I don't want to do, like my yoga in the morning or something. I don't want to do this, and then realizing, that's interesting. There's disliking here, but I always feel so much better if I do it. And so sometimes then this capacity to observe liking and disliking, we go the other way and we in fact act. And I become a person who did my yoga. There's another example. It's odd, the things that stick. Way back during one of the horrible world catastrophes, it was the tsunami, the one in Thailand. I was looking at some pictures of that, and I think I was giving a talk on this the next day. I was looking at some horrible pictures, and I saw a little sign for the Red Cross up in the corner. And the thought occurred, oh, I could contribute some money to this. And since I was really on this Paticca Samuppada thing, I realized, here's a desire to give. That's a really wholesome thing. I think I will. And so click, and I made a donation. And I became a person, I was born as a person who was generous in that moment. Is this making sense? That we can cultivate who we are, and who has compulsive habits or addictions that you know you'd do better off without? Please raise your hand. Look around. 2 hands. I see. Me too. So that's normal, right? Obviously, that's normal. That's not pathology. That's normal for human beings. So how do we ever so lovingly and kindly, slowly shape those things toward, this is something I will rein in? Or this is something I'm going to encourage. And we encourage mindfulness, curiosity, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration. The enlightenment factors, we cultivate them because they are the antidote to the acting out. So it would seem that we are an ecological system, and that we somehow have the capacity to influence how it's running and where it's headed. And I'm going to hand you the microphone with 3 minutes. Do you want to say anything? You know so much about this.
First of all, I love synchronicity because I'm going to be in the teacher seat next week, and I'm going to talk about how we often come to meditation because we want something to be better in our lives. And I'm going to turn that upside down and talk about how we can develop character to become deeper, better meditators. And it follows.
Perfect.
Follows very nicely on this talk. Some of you who've been in some of my classes have heard this from me. This part that Robert taught me several years ago, we stood in his office in front of the Tanka, and he walked me through. I was going through some difficult things in my life, and you walked me through how the arising of mindfulness can interrupt at any of those points, and then we can reverse the process. We don't have to go on through and give birth to harmfulness or whatever. So I've told the story decades ago, thankfully, now. I was a person who, by not even a word, we didn't have text messaging back then, but even just a look could set me off into a rage blackout. And fortunately, the Dharma came to me, actually through Wayne Dyer, of all people. And he pointed out that we can choose. And a favorite saying of his from A Course in Miracles was, I can choose peace rather than this. And that became my mantra as I would meditate. That and the Brahma Viharas, the practice of loving kindness or metta and compassion and sympathetic joy and equanimity. And over time, I got to where as I would try to explain it to people, I could see the anger around the corner. I could see around corners. Which is to say, I could sense it back at the sense doors. If you could bring up the picture of the house, I could tell something happened and it's wanting to arise. And I could make the choice, do I want to go with that or not? And again, Robert, you explained it so beautifully to me that day in your office. Really, that was a life-changing moment for me to really cement in or bring that more deeply into focus of the how this can work in day-to-day life. So it's great stuff to practice.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be at Brighton Bush teaching a retreat next Sunday, and Doyle will be in the teacher seat. There's good preview, good planning to do this. So, by speaking about this, and by having the audiovisual assistance, we have had a karmic experience. There's a conditioning in this which creates perhaps a change in worldview, a challenge at least of worldview. And so I invite you, be very, very gentle with this. Be gentle with every way you treat yourself. Because I really like that freighter, the oil tanker analogy, because if you try to change course, like, I'm going to do this all the time now, never works. But to realize very kindly, oh, there's this tremendous momentum of my unskillful habits. I'm going to acknowledge that and recognize how normal it is, and I'm going to start making a small, gentle, conscious effort to become aware of it. And mindfulness is all powerful. Right? Mindfulness isn't personal. Mindfulness is the awareness isn't personal. It is the awareness of the universe. And so to take refuge, that's the refuge in the Buddha, to have that come to bear on some emotion that's emerging or some impulse to act, what could be more powerful? Even if you wind up still doing it, to notice it happening is where we get our rubber on the road for following the course we'd like to take through our lives, but with great mercy, because we're complex. So thank you all for coming and for being intent and paying attention. It is a great privilege and honor to have the opportunity to talk about this. I want to thank Ruth Dennison and all of her teachers. Please take a moment internally. Thank your teachers. You've had so many. You wouldn't be in this room if you haven't had lots of fine guidance. Okay, please let's stand and form a circle, and the kids will come in and we'll do our little closing ritual. Thanks, Danny. Good idea. Thank you. Hi. Hi, Tara. Over here. Over here. Over here. This sound comes out of there. That's why we're looking. Well, hi. Did you have fun today? Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. May I hold your hand? Thank you. And your hand? Thank you. So here is the privilege of having a human body. We can reach out and hold hands. Hearing the sounds of new life. I might just share this with you. When I fly, there's often an individual, usually a woman or a couple, with a new baby, a small child, and with the pressurization changes, the babies cry. And I always go and talk to that couple and say, I hope you're relaxing, because the people, anyone around you who's having difficulty with this, they're forgetting that they were babies themselves. And the couple, you can see just the tension just goes out of the couple. It's like, okay, good. So give a hand. Let's become aware of our own body and the hands we're holding. And here's a skillful practice. How would the mind like to think a kind thought for the person on your right? What would you like to bless them with as a thought? And then offer that to them. Give their hand a little squeeze. So we're training our own consciousness to open in this beautiful way to the person on your left now. Give their hand a squeeze. What would you wish for them? What prayer would you offer them? How would you like to visualize them? And around our circle, in through the right hand, out through the left, a blessing, a wish of kindness. And to everyone who's ever set foot in this room in its almost 80 years of existence, to all beings in Portland, and in the great cities, the hundreds of great cities in the world, thousands, in the small towns, in the forests, in the air, in the oceans. May all beings benefit from our practice. Let's include in our practice those who are in power, with their own ideas and fears and kindnesses, wishing them well, because they too are us. To the poorest, sickest among us, may we remember that all beings are our true family. And I think I have a microphone. Test one. Test 1, 2, 3. No, it's not working. Come on now. Yes, it is. You're the ones? Okay. There you go.
May all beings be happy. May
All beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. That was beautiful. So, now the exciting moment. Everyone in the room and at home gets to take a really big breath. This air that we share with all beings. And then think of a kind wish, a blessing. And then on the count of 3, not yet, not yet, not yet. All those of us in the room can blow out the candle. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yes. A little competition, natural for us human beings. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for a fine year. And do join us on New Year's Eve. Thank you. Thank you.